Hello everybody and welcome to the Draconia review, a dragon game that is seemingly taking the dragon game world by storm at the moment, and it's a very good game in my opinion. However, I wanted to review it and give you guys the full review and tell you whether you should buy it or if you should consider it, wishlist it, avoid it, or just don't buy it at all. This is a review of the pre-alpha version of Draconia, so remember, this is not the final look of the game. That being said, I'll be doing a follow-up review comparing it to this review in the future when the game is more complete or when it is fully completed. That being said, the timestamps are on the screen now, and I'm splitting the review into separate sections, but first we'll be going into what this game is to keep you guys in the loop. Anyways, let's get right into the video. So what is Draconia? I'm going to try and get through this fairly quickly because I already have 2 videos talking about Draconia, which I recommend you go out and watch. Even though they are a little bit dated, I might do a follow-up video talking about it in the future. So according to the Steam page, Draconia is an open world dragon survival game with RPG elements intertwined with it that has been made on the Unreal Engine. There will be 6 different playable dragons when the game is fully released. However, there will be additional playable creatures in the game. There's already 2 of them which are playable, which is the Golem and the Griffin. Currently, out of the 6 dragons, however, there are only 2 that are playable, so bear that in mind. There'll be a story in this game as well, because it is an RPG game. It will also have a story to it as well, but that being said, the story isn't in the game yet. Currently, the story will be following the character known as Taruk, who is a Karsei, which is a dragon person. You'll follow this character in his story as the story develops and find out more about the world of Draconia. Draconia will incorporate a bunch of features, an in-game story with lore and stuff like that, massive character customization, character leveling system, optional PvP as there will be servers with PvP disabled, group and clan creation system, creating and hoarding items, nesting, questing, and dragon dens, and a whole bunch more. So far, however, this game, as I have said, is a pre-alpha, so not all of these features are in the game yet, but they are planned in the future. The game is also planning to be a game that will have no exclusive content, so that means there is no content that you have to buy once the game is released, and no content that you'd automatically get for free if you back the game at a certain price, because all backer creations, whether that is a specific creature that the backer wanted, comes into the game and is available for everyone. So that is a brief overview of the game, so let's just go ahead and get right into the review of the game. So let's start out with the accessibility of the game, but let's just talk about what this review entwines. So there'll be subsections and sections. The sections include accessibility, gameplay, development, community, and graphics and map, which are different sections at that. Each of them will have a subsection or subcategories, which are then ranked out of 10 and overall go to the main score of the section itself, and then the sections all add up together for the final score at the end. For the accessibility, there are 3 different categories which added up give a total of 30 potential scores in the rankings. That being said, let's get into the price of Draconia. So Draconia, I think, is a fairly priced game. It currently costs £25.50 in Great British pounds. This is not in dollars, however it's around $30 if you were to compare it. That being said, I believe as this game is in a pre-alpha, it doesn't fit its price so far. However, the devs are going to keep it at its price because this is the price that it's going to be when it's fully released, and if you're buying it now, you're going to get the full release game when it is out anyways. That being said, the game is £10 more than its other main rival, Day of Dragons, which is a £15 game. However, you can actually compare the additional prices because Draconia will not include any exclusive additional paid content, but Day of Dragons already does, and if you add that paid content in, which will give you a more fleshed comparative experience, that adds up to £27, which is more than Draconia's £25. That being said, you can also compare it to dinosaur games. Path of Titans is £30 and more expensive than Draconia. However, Draconia is more expensive than Beasts of Bermuda, which is £15. That being said, I do believe when this game is fully released, it will fit its price. However, for now, I think rating its price will be around a 6 out of 10 for its price. For platform, Forms, this game is gonna get a 3 out of 10 because the game is only available on PC and is only going to be available on PC. Currently, it's only available through its Patreon page. However, it will be available on Steam when it's fully released. For requirements, this is going to be talking about the minimum specs of the game, and the minimum specs are the recommended specs, so I'm kind of iffy on what the specs actually are and if they've been updated, but this is what it is. A Windows 10 OS, Intel Core i7 5820K CPU, 8GB of RAM memory, GeForce GTX 980 Ti graphics card, and 4GB of storage for the game freed up. Which, personally, I have heard chatter that people can actually go on lower variants of the game. However, this minimum spec is actually the minimum spec for when the game will be fully released, which is fair. However, in this current state, I'd say it gets a 5 out of 10 because there's still a fair few people who play games at this spec but on lower end computers. So far for accessibility, however, that ranks it at a 14 out of 30 for its rating. Gameplay comes up next as the biggest section. This has 8 different sections in it, which gives an overall score of 80. So let's start with the first section, which is combat. I'm aware that the developers are working on combat. However, obviously, as the game is a pre-alpha at the moment, I'm reviewing it as it's in its current form. But so far, I actually find that the combat is fairly decent. Combat in Draconia is young. It was only added to the game this year. Like I said, however, it is actually decent for a pre-alpha game, with a target system in place so you can actually accurately hit the enemies as they fly by you, because this is aerial combat, and the combat system also is fleshed out fairly nicely. There is room for improvement. You don't know when you've been bitten, and you don't know when a bite actually hits an enemy because they don't react or make any noise. That being said, when you do hit an enemy with your breath attacks, they do light on fire, so you are aware of that. You can also track them in a sense, and the flight combat is actually very good. So for combat, I give it a 6 out of 10. For single player, this is pretty much just flying around, customizing your dragon, upgrading it, and exploring the map. Currently, there is not much to do in single player, so at its current state, I give it a 5 out of 10. For multiplayer, I feel like the Draconia community is actually really good, and this is where the game actually shines in comparative to single player. I think Draconia's multiplayer is a very decent creation. That being said, the servers aren't always fully populated. However, there are often or not a dozen people on the server at a time, and devs often host test servers for new updates, which have a lot of people on as well. So for multiplayer experience, I've enjoyed it so far, and I rate it a 7 out of 10. Mechanics in the game, like I said, there isn't actually many in the game at the moment. However, it plans on adding nesting, story, hoarding and crafting dens, and a whole bunch more. So far, it has food and water, fire breathing, carrying, growth, leveling up, and a few other stuff as well. So I would rate mechanics a 5 out of 10. However, this is something, like as it is a pre-alpha game, will be getting expanded upon in the future. For replayability, when playing the game, I feel like this is a game that you can actually jam-pack a lot of hours into it and play it over and over again, even though it doesn't have a lot in it so far. Yet again, there are 4 creatures. However, the customization in the game is absolutely incredible. You can spend hours customizing all your creatures, then making new creatures and making them even more different than the same European dragon. But there's so many different abilities that you can do with it. And then when you go into the game, you can fly around, you can level up, you can attack players, you can explore the map. So for replayability, it's something you could do over and over again, as long as you have friends. So I rate it a 7 out of 10. Characters, this for me is a 5 out of 10 because there's very limited characters in the game currently. There are 4 characters that you can play as, 2 of which are dragons that are planned for the game, the European dragon and the lindworm. Obviously, there is 4 more still to come, but in the game so far you have European dragon, lindworm, golem and griffin. So in terms of models, they're very good, which is why it keeps it up a little bit. but for characters, it's very limited at the moment, so it gets a 5 out of 10. Customization, finally, this is the best part of the game in my opinion. Like I said in replayability, this actually is a big factor in replayability of the game because the customization is incredible. You can customize your dragons with a whole host of upgrades at your disposal with spikes, horns, tail clubs, bone armor, and all that stuff. And then when you do the colors, you can pick any color you want. So if you want a pretty pink dragon or a realistic looking dragon, you can have either. You can basically do whatever you want with the dragons. There's obviously additional improvements to be made. Some of the characters don't have all or a lot of customization. I feel like it's more favored towards the dragons, but for customization, I rate this a 9 out of 10. So that is total gameplay review overall, and to me, I rate the gameplay a total of 44 out of 80 after adding up everything, of course, which is just less than 60%, which for a pre-alpha game, in my opinion, is very, very good. The next sections actually only have 2 different subsections in them each, which makes this able to be flown through. That being said, development focuses on the frequency of updates and the current development status. And there are 2 sections, so it adds up to 20 overall. Technically, for development status, this is where the game kind of gets hindered a little bit because pre-alphas, demos, and games that are just not in development anymore always will be at the bottom of the rating, and as this is a pre-alpha, it will get a 3 out of 10. That being said, the game as it develops and as it goes into the stages until it gets to a final development status, it will be higher ranked, which means there is room for growth in a future review. So yes, the game does get penalized a little bit here, but a 3 out of 10 is not the end of the world, because it is actually carried back with frequency of update. The game is updated a lot. Go to their Discord server, go in announcements, and you'll see a lot of updates. If you're a supporter of the game and have that role, you get so many frequent updates with that as well. The developers are always in tune with updates for the game and share with you what is coming to the game as well, which is very nice. My only downside of this is the updates are only shown in the Discord server currently that I'm aware of, and their other socials, just not on Steam. So you can't really see that on Steam. However, for frequency of updates, it gets a 7 out of 10, which for development, it gets a 10 out of 20, which as things go, it was probably going to get even better as time goes on because it's a pre-alpha and it was let down by development status. For the community, this is aimed at people who love community-sided games. We're looking at the community involvement and the player count overall when you are playing the game, so you know how involved the community is in the game in terms of Discord, socials, and just the developers' interaction with the community and how many people often play the game. This is 2 sections with 20 potential points, and for players, this ends up ranking the lowest in this group. However, it gets a 6 out of 10. Sometimes servers are empty, as with most games, as they are very new and were added recently, whereas there is also times when the servers can be full, and there are also times when there's test servers up where everybody's helping test the game, which is another way to get on a populated server, which I believe as the game grows it will expand over time, so this should grow. For community involvement, this actually ranked quite highly because in my opinion the Discord server is a testament to the community involvement of the game. The developers are very involved with the game's community, and the community is very chatty, welcoming and friendly overall, and they're very keen to answer your questions. That being said, I rank the community involvement a 9 out of 10, which for the community overall, I think this is a very, very community involved game, which overall I rank it a 15 out of 20, which is a very good rank for you community avid people. The final section is map and graphics. This is literally just a 2-part section with a potential of 20 marks where we look at the map and the graphics for the game because these technically tie in together. The map, let's start with that. It's a very big map, however it was only started its development just late last year and was released about early this year, so it still has a long way to go in terms of the map's development overall. However, it is still plain in some places, but there is a lot of nice biomes, from bamboo forests, normal forests, villages, floating islands, mountains, and rivers, oceans, and islands, and more in general, which I think is actually very nice so far. There is plans to expand the map even more because there is so much empty space, so when it is fully done, it should rank even higher, but for now, it gets a 5 out of 10. Graphics are good, but not fantastic. That is the best way to put it. The map graphics are very akin to the likes of The Isle Legacy, a little bit worse for wear compared to Path of Titans, but it's on par with them. That being said, the game has god rays in a sense, which is quite nice, and the weather is very good as well. If you look in the sky, you've got auroras, you've got lightning, you've got fog, you've got clouds, and the skies look incredible. My only downside is the current assets that are being used for trees and stuff. However, it's a pre-alpha and this might change. That being said, the game is quite beautiful for what it is, and I feel like the map graphics pull it down a little bit, but the dragon graphics and all the other custom assets do pull it back quite a bit, which overall gives me a 6 out of 10 for this rank, which overall for graphics and map, that is 11 out of 20, which is very nice. So, for the final scores in this game. Now, this is my first review video, so I'm going to talk about what the scoring is in this section so far. I'm going to tell you what the categories are. We have 5 categories. We have do not buy for games that score around 0 to 39. Not recommended for games that are around 40 to 69. Wishlist games that are around 70 to 99 in the range. 100 and 129 are for games that I think you should consider buying, and 130 and 170 are games that you should outright buy right now. So where does Draconia sit in this regard? With 14 from accessibility, 44 from gameplay, 10 from development, 15 from community involvement, and 11 from map and graphics, which overall Draconia gets 94 out of 160 from the total review, which means I think you should wishlist the game. This is a pre-alpha, that being said, so that's why it's held down a little bit in terms of its score. However, I feel like Draconia can become the ultimate dragon survival game, and I feel like when the game is fully released and I come back for an additional final review of the game, it will definitely sit either in a consider or buy category. That being said, what do you guys think about Draconia? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on this review in the comments down below. Now, that's the review, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope this gives you an insight on Draconia. What do you think? Would you be getting Draconia, or are you just going to add it to your wish list? Where would you rank the game out of your total rankings on the score? I'd love to know. That being said, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what games you want me to review in the comments down below. I'm thinking of doing Path of Titans next. But other than that, everybody, I'll see you in the next one, and if you are new, feel free to like and subscribe, and yeah, have a great day. Peace.